After Yaakov wakes up from the dream and he hears all the beautiful blessings that Hashem give him in the dream, among which was a sign of protection. Because I will be with you, I'll protect you wherever you go. You will return to this land, the land of Israel. I will not abandon you, and my promise will be fulfilled. You will have a descendants that is so numerous, and you will, spread peacefully, powerfully to the west, to the east, the north, the south. You will be, the land of Israel will sort of expand in all directions. It will not be reduced to the geographical boundaries that Hashem gave. Abraham, Yaakov is going to have unlimited, boundless, almost without frontiers, the land of Israel. So this is the promise. Now Yaakov gets up from his dream. But the first thing he says, I did not know that God was in this place. I did not. I thought maybe it was only God communicates with people only in certain places, synagogue, in the house of Abraham, Yitzchak. But now I see that it combines even anywhere. But of course, this place, according to the rabbis, was a very special place, a place where the temple was going to be residing. Anyway, the geography of this is for another discussion because it's called the place Bethel, which is Bethel is north of Jerusalem, but some say that he was in Jerusalem. So it's a little bit unclear. It takes another class to discuss this aspect. But in any case, let's take the rabbi's interpretation that he was referring to the Mount Moriah, where Yaakov had, where Yavram had attempted to bind Yitzchak, and the place of the Mikdash would be rebuilt. So, but it says here that he makes a vow, and he says, if God would be with me, will guard me in this way that I'm going, will give me bread to eat and clothes to wear, and I return in peace to my father's house, and Hashem will be a God to me, Vayah Hashem li Elokim, I will make this stone into a home, O God, temple, whatever, and they will give it type. So first of all, it's interesting to say if God will be with me. So what do you mean if? Hashem just said that he's going to be with him. So what is the if? If appears to be maybe yes, maybe no. It's optional, tentative, which seems to be uncharacteristic of a man who believes in Hashem. Hashem just told you yes. So some commentators suggest that the word im in this case does not mean if, as it translated. I don't know what translations you have, but we're talking about verse 20, where it says im. But sometimes it could be that im could mean given that. It's not if yes or if no, but rather that. It's like affirmative. It's almost like saying emet. So it's true that you're going to be with me. And you, so it's not so much a conditional, but rather an assurance. That's one way of explaining it. Another way to explain the im is that I want Hashem. These are all requests that he has. That Hashem should be with me. And he should protect me. And give me, only I want, this is also, he doesn't say give me wealth, give me just bread and garments. That's all he wants, the minimal. And then I'll return to this house, the house of my father, and Hashem will be to me into a God. Almost like making assurances of what he's going to do. But whatever way we understand this part, let's concentrate on what he said at the end of this verse, verse 21. Ve'ya Hashem li Elokim. Hashem should be to me an Elokim, a God. So what does it mean God will be God? What does it mean God will be God? God is God. What is God for me? It seems a little strange, the word. So one explanation of Rashi is that he's saying that Yaakov was beseeching Hashem that the name of Hashem should be upon him and his descendants. In other words, that whenever, just like they called it the God of Abraham and they call it the God of Isaac, he's asking Hashem that he should also be worthy, that it should be called the God of Jacob. That's his request. Hashem li Elokim, that Hashem should be the God of Jacob too. That's one explanation of Rashi. And also the God of Israel, not only the God of Abraham, but the God of Israel. So that means that Hashem is associated with Jacob and associated with Israel. Obviously, Hashem would not be associated with somebody who is unworthy. So that's his prayer, that he should be worthy enough that Hashem should associate his name with Jacob. That is one explanation. The Sforno suggests that Yaakov was so sure of his attachment to Hashem that he's not afraid of saying, I want God to be my judge. And as a judge, I am ready to be punished if I do not obey his commandments. Now we have to understand where to get this idea from. So the way you read the text literally is, remember that Hashem has two names. One is Hashem, Yod Kei Vav Kei, but we call it the Tetragrammaton. And the other one is Elokim. And the name of Hashem, Yod Kei Vav Kei, that we sometimes say Adonai, this is referring to the aspect of God. God governs the world as a judge, which means that every action has consequences. Every good deed is rewarded. Every bad deed is punished. It is not something relative, or Hashem doesn't have to look at other details. You did something right, Hashem will reward you. Even if a person is not a good person, is a scoundrel, but now he did something good, Hashem for this is going to reward him. And vice versa. A person could be a great tzaddik, a person who does always perfect things, but once he insulted somebody, once he shamed somebody, once he stole from somebody, he is punished. That's a justice, like a computer in a way, no deviations. The algorithm of justice works almost blindly. But that is when Hashem acts that way, he is Elokim, like the God of the world, the creator, the almost the demiurge. But the name of Hashem, Yod Kei Vav Kei, is when Hashem conducts the world in a different way. That means the aspect of mercy, of love. Hashem has compassion on people. Realizes that maybe this person he didn't realize that, or maybe he's too weak, or he wasn't educated properly, or even if he did it, okay, so today we're going to forgive him because maybe tomorrow he'll get better. That aspect of not acting like a computer, but taking into consideration all the other things that people do when they're merciful, that is when Hashem acts like Hashem. So according to this formula, this is what he is, that Yaakov is saying. Ve'aya Hashem, the God of mercy, the God of forgiveness, the God of looking the other way when I do something wrong. I want it to be Li, for me, Elokim, a judge. If I do something wrong, I want to be punished. I want to be disciplined if I don't do the right thing. And Rav Hirsch transforms it a little bit into a different aspect. He says that I don't want to do the mitzvot uh, only because I want to do them. I want to constantly experience that I have an obligation to do the mitzvot. I'm obligated. Of course, I get up in the morning and, I have to wash hands. So maybe I want to wash my hands. Now, especially with COVID, everybody wants to wash their hands. So the idea is, I don't want to wash my hands because I want to wash my hands. As Yaakov is saying, I want to do the mitzvah because Hashem told me. Even I want to experience absolutely I'm fulfilling a duty, an obligation. Even if I like it, I want to feel that. Because I also want to feel the sense of obligation upon me. Because a person who's used to the concept on doing mitzvot because I like them, one day he may not like them and he may stop doing it. Or he may find an obstacle, something that prevents him from doing the mitzvah. He says, well, today I can't. I can't. But if it's an obligation, then there's no I can or I can't. I'm obligated. I have to make an effort. I have to go. I have to do it. So when it is an obligation, you gain more discipline. So there is the pro is that it helps me fulfill the mitzvah. The con is that when I don't, I'm going to be punished, and there's no forgiveness. So in a sense, maybe this is what Yaakov was saying. Yaakov was saying, I want Hashem to, I want to be disciplined. I am confident of myself. I know that I will fulfill the mitzvot. I'll do what Hashem wants. And therefore, I don't want to relate to Hashem as, oh, he's a nice God, and I love him, and I wanted to be with him. And no, I want to know and feel that he is my judge. And we know that in life, when a person lives always with the aspect of forgiveness, either from the government, from a parent, or from our spouses, or even from ourselves. We do a lot of things that are not so nice. We say, well, all right, he'll understand, he knows. It's not so terrible. But when a person knows that he is an obligation, and he will be embarrassed if he doesn't do it, he will be much more committed to doing it right and not to fault. And that's what Yaakov is saying. I want to live a life of discipline. And ultimately, the discipline that Hashem gives us is also the mitzvot. The mitzvot are not just nice suggestions. They're not just nice things to do. Oh, we keep kosher because it's healthy. Shabbat is nice because it gives us rest. No. Everything in the Torah is an obligation. Whether we understand it or you don't understand it, you have to do it because you're obligated to do. And that's what a Jew experiences. I'm obligated to do it, and I will do it. And I will be subject to the punishment if I don't. The rabbis explain this concept with a beautiful statement. Gadol ha-metzuva v'yoseh mishe'eino metzuva v'yoseh. Greater is he who performs a mitzvah when he is obligated to do it, more than that person who observes a mitzvah when he is not obligated to do it. In other words, if for some reason I am not obligated to do this mitzvah, and I do it anyway, people would say, oh, this is great. You're not obligated, you do it anyway. Admirable. You do what you have to do. Look, you have to do it. Nothing. It's your duty. There's no merit to it. So apparently, we would think that the opposite. The one who does a mitzvah when he is not obligated is greater than he who does a mitzvah when he is obligated. And why does the rabbi say the opposite? And the answer is, as Tosafot explains, the person who wants to do a mitzvah because he wants to do it, he doesn't have any obstacles. He doesn't have to conquer anything. He wants to do it, and he does it. The person who is obligated to do something, the first obstacle he has is, why should I do it? Who are you to tell me? People have an innate sense of rebellion. Tell somebody to do something, and the person says, "Why? I don't want to." Because we are independent. This happens even with children. So when I have an obligation, there's something in me that says, I don't want to do it. Conquering that desire not to do it is when I get a greater reward. And that's what it says. It's a greater accomplishment to do when you don't want, when you're not obligated. When you are obligated, rather than when you're not obligated. I want to end with this beautiful idea. In the bracha that we learned last week at Toldot, it says, "V'yitel lecha," the bracha of Yaakov and the bracha that he gives Esav are almost identical. In the bracha of Yaakov, he says, "Yitel lecha mital hashamam mishmanei haaretz." God should give you from the dew of heaven and the fat of the earth. That's the blessing him with abundance. So what is the bracha to Esav? So he says, in the fat of the earth you will reside, and from the dew of the heaven. So it's exactly the same bracha. A little bit of a different order. And Yaakov mentions the dew first and the fat of the earth second. In Esav, he mentions the fat first and the dew second, which means that in a sense Yaakov was closer to the heavens and second and than to the earth. And the Esav, the inspiration was that the fat is first, physical, and the dew of the heaven is second. So, okay, but ultimately it's the same thing. But there's a difference between the bracha anyway. And I'll pause for a moment to see if somebody will tell me the difference. Let me say it again. I'll read the two verses and I'll ask you to tell me. Okay, here is the verse. This is in chapter 27, verse 28. And God should give you the dew of the heavens and the fatness of the earth. This is Yaakov. Now we're going to read that stuff. The fatness of the earth shall be your dwelling, and of the dew of the heavens from above. I'll stop for a moment. If you would like to answer the question, you can. In the case of Yaakov, he says, may God grant you the fatness of the earth.
Emphasis on
Whereas,
God. The emphasis on God.
right. And in Esav, it says, you will reside at the fatness of the earth. There's no God there. There's no God giving it to you. And that is also the attitude of Yaakov is always going to, whatever he receives, he will experience that it comes from Hashem. Whereas Esav will simply reside in a place that is fat without even thinking about where it comes from. And the reason is that when Yaakov knows that it comes from Hashem, he knows that it will only come when he deserves it. And if he doesn't deserve it, he is not going to get it. In fact, the second part of the Shema, it says clearly, if you hearken to my voice, you will get rain. But if you are going to idols and you don't and disobey me, the earth, you will not have rain. There'll be famine in the land. Whereas for Esav, it doesn't really matter. Esav is always going to have. He's going to sit in a land that is fat and that is always abundant. And therefore, he will not be punished by Hashem, but he also will not have this relationship with Hashem. So in a sense, we see that the relationship with God as judge makes us always connected with him. And, I'd like to end with this beautiful thought. Everything that you have to feel that Hashem gave it to you. If you are able this morning to get up and get up from the bed, we have to be grateful that Hashem gave us this opportunity. I saw today a man walking in the street. I don't know if he had MS or some other neurological issue, which is a very terrible. Rahman al-Islam. It's the mind in 1 second, can change, and a person loses the ability to take one step in front of the other. Something that we do without thinking. So next time you'll be able to take 2 steps, you have to say, Baruch Hashem, that Hashem gave me this opportunity. That's what people who are connected with Hashem feel. They're constantly grateful. They're constantly surrounded by the kindness of Hashem that Hashem is constantly giving us. Whereas the person who doesn't have that thought doesn't think about it until Chas v'Shalom, a real crisis occurs, and then he begins to think of God. And he doesn't think of God. He doesn't know where it comes from. It comes from the devil, which makes his disease and illness even worse and more difficult to bear. It's a very terrible thing to be an atheist. Really a sad and tragic thing. So that's the difference. Yaakov wants to connect with a God who constantly judges him, reward and punishment, whereas Esav is unable, incapable, and that's what Hashem doesn't give him, that God, because he will be miserable if he has to realize that every time he has a problem, he'll be complaining. He won't accept it. He won't use the withdrawal of a favor as a disciplinary measure to help him and for him to refine his character and ask Hashem for forgiveness, and then receive the favor as an earned favor rather than an automatic one. Whereas a person who is not able to, when he has a problem, he collapses. And instead of refining his character, it gets even worse. And that's what Hashem deals with the Jewish people with greater severity, greater strictness. And I want to end with a thought. It says in Rashi quotes on that pasuk that when Solomon builds the temple of Jerusalem, he says, through this place, all the prayers of the world will come. And first he mentions the prayers of the Jews. And he says, the prayers of Israel will come to this place that they will ascend to heaven, and you will give them according to their deeds. But also, he says, the prayer of the non-Jew will come through this. It will come to this place, and you will hear it. And it doesn't say you will do according to their deeds. It doesn't say you'll reward them. Simply listen to them. Someone's like, the non-Jew, Hashem gives them something whether they deserve or don't deserve it. They're not disciplined. Whereas the Jews are constantly under the watch of Hashem. And they're given what they deserve, whether there's a reward or a punishment. And that's one of the reasons why we're constantly rising, refining, and getting better. Like a good teacher or a good parent who helps a child grow and develop into a better person. That is the dream of Yaakov. Please deal with me like a judge. I am strong enough. I can take it. I'll be willing and accepting that kind of a life. It is perhaps this beautiful dream and desire of Yaakov that has made the Jewish people what it is. This great nation. They're constantly learning to be a little better and constantly asking themselves, what can I do to deserve more?